Okay, welcome back to another Geek Corner segment on the Coach Steve Show. Logan is back. This is the quickest back-to-back Geek Corner I think we've ever done. Maybe, I'm not sure.
I think probably. Yeah, I'm sure maybe one early, but yeah, we teased it on our last one we did after Thor that there's going to be some announcements coming up here at Comic-Con in July. So I figured there's a good chance we were going to jump on here and have some things to talk about. And sure enough, we're here.
Yeah, I was worried. I'm sure you saw the report of they said that there may not be a lot of announcements at this because they wanted to wait until D23.
Yeah.
And so going into it, I said, okay, they'll just give little snippets.
Yeah.
And even though they didn't reveal a lot, they still revealed a lot.
Right. Yeah, I've been thinking about that too. Obviously referring to Marvel.
Yeah, sorry, referring to Marvel.
Yeah, we'll talk about other stuff too, but from a Marvel standpoint, yeah, I was with you. I had heard that report too, that basically said that we may not get as much as we thought we would, that we were originally. So I was not really sure what to think, and all the stuff that we got, and we will go into it in depth. You know, most of it is stuff that we already knew. There really weren't any big surprises here aside from how they're ending Phase 6. I think that's really the only real shock of what we got, because everything else that they announced was all stuff that we had already known was happening. We may not have had super confirmation on it, or we may not have known much details, or it might have been just a rumor that had been circulating that was pretty legit or whatever. But other than the big way that they're going to close out Phase 6, we didn't really get a ton of shockers here. So I think that may be where that stemmed from. They might be holding some of the big surprises for D23 in September. But either way, we still got quite a bit on Saturday at Comic-Con. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it was either how they're ending it and then the lack thereof, which we might know more in September, but it opens the door for a lot of things. But I guess I have to say this, you weren't expecting this. I did watch the Walking Dead part of Comic-Con. I had to look at that.
Okay.
And spoilers, because Andrew Lincoln has been gone for a couple years. They were supposed to make these Walking Dead movies, and then COVID hit, and now it's just kind of been up in the air. They've now come out saying he's coming back, but they're going to make a mini series instead of the movie.
Everything's a mini series now.
It is.
Everything is a mini. If it's not something that's going to make buku dollars at the box office, which at this point I'm not sure a Walking Dead movie could. If it's not something that's going to make that much money, a lot of these stories are going to miniseries, which you can have your opinion on. I'm personally not really a big fan of it, but it's a common thing now. So, yeah, I think 5-7 years ago, Walking Dead movie would have made a ton of money at the box office. I don't think that it would draw the same numbers anymore. No. So I think that's probably a good call for them.
It's going to be on AMC Plus, which I hate because now you have to get that.
Everything has a plus, and everything requires you to spend more money. It's obnoxious. I
think it was going to be originally a Netflix movie, which made sense because you could just release that because they have a contract with AMC. But I don't know. I just want to throw out there, the whole theater erupted when he walked out there because you haven't seen him since 2019, I think. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned AMC Plus, which just got me thinking. I just saw a report not long ago that said, now that I know this is a few years out, I don't know why we care about it right now, but said that Breaking Bad will be leaving Netflix in 2025. And my first thought was, okay, well, where will it go? Well, AMC Plus. Of course, it's going to go to AMC Plus because they have their own service and they want that to be the exclusive place where you can get their content. They want people to pay money to have Breaking Bad. So, I mean, that's what everybody's doing. I don't know. This isn't really the objective of this conversation we're about to have. I don't know the longevity of this model that we're in right now with all these streaming services. I think we've replaced standard cable with streaming services, but now it just seems like it's just too much, and everybody has to have their own service, and it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, and I don't know what and this is the last thing I'll say on this, then we can move on to what we were going to talk about because we won't be out here too long. The AMC Plus thing, they came out with it. I don't know if they have their own shows, but what I hate about it is you get, so like Walking Dead will come back in October and it's on every Sunday night. If you have AMC Plus, you get it like 2 weeks before it comes out on TV.
Yeah.
And so they're not really creating their own content. It's just kind of, you get access to this and then it's always there. And
I do think they have had some things that have been exclusive to it. I know there was like there's been a couple movies I think that have come out that have gone exclusively to that. Yeah, I mean, that's just one of the perks that they have to tie into it in order to get people to pay for it, is that you get to watch Walking Dead early. So I agree. The whole thing's whack and I hate it, but good for that though. I mean, I know a lot of people that are still fans of that show, yourself included. So happy that you're finally getting the movie, quote unquote, that you always wanted.
And it's the last season. The last part of the season it's going to be done.
Yeah.
But they're having spinoffs, and I'm curious to see how that goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my Comic-Con. That's how it started. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, that's great. There was a lot. I mean, I didn't follow everything. I know there was a trailer for the new Game of Thrones spinoff. I mean, I know that all sorts of people had their own announcements, and I know there was FX announcements and all sorts of things. But obviously, at every Comic-Con, I mean, the big things are Marvel, DC related. Which is obviously why we're here and what we're going to talk about. So
not a lot of DC, but
there wasn't much. There wasn't much, which didn't really shock me. I don't even know what they have down the pipe, coming down the pipe. So
Superman was supposed, he was supposed to be there, but it was just kind of,
yeah. And I don't know, maybe they're doing, I know a couple years ago when Comic-Con was canceled, they did their own thing, that DC fandom thing or whatever. I don't know if they're still doing that again. But either way, yeah, they really didn't bring a ton to the table. They put a lot of dollars into the spectacle of the Black Adam presentation. But that seemed to be most of all their, how they spent their hour. So
this is their last, this might be their last ditch effort to really like bring eyes to DC, is like, let's get The Rock.
Yeah. I mean, he'll do it. I mean, he's the biggest movie star in Hollywood for a reason, and people will come to his movie. We'll see if it's any good, but yeah.
And what, Shazam?
Yeah, Shazam and Black Adam were really the only two DC things. They showed a trailer for Shazam, and they had some of the cast there, and they had a couple come in virtually. I know that Helen Mirren made a comment. They got some buzz. I like the first Shazam. Honestly, I know I've said this before. The first Shazam and Wonder Woman and the recent Suicide Squad are probably my favorite 3 DC properties since the Nolan trilogy. And most of the stuff they've done just hasn't been very good. I'm not saying Shazam is like, the best thing in the movies, but it was a solid movie. I was really impressed by it. So, I'm excited for the sequel. We'll see if it carries much weight, but yeah, they had that. And then the Black Adam trailer, and The Rock was there, came out with his suit and had this big spectacle. So that was at least cool that we got something. We'll see. I thought that there was a chance he might make a mention of Henry Cavill, that he'd be in the movie, but that didn't happen. So I don't know if he is or not. But either way, I'm looking forward to both of those movies, for sure.
Yeah, Shazam will bring a lot of eyes and money. I think Black Adam will bring a lot of eyes and money.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They both look good. Shazam looks like a good action, funny movie. It reminds me Thor-ish, like it's going to have comedy. Then Black Adam looks like a typical Rock movie where he's going to be serious, and there's going to be little snippets of humor. He'll play a character like that very well, who's like an anti-hero, but he's also a hero. And that's not CGI, that's like actual suit. He got that big for it. He's like, it's no CGI.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, he's a big dude.
He's the quickest. He was in that suit, and then literally he went away for I saw the video. He goes away for 4 minutes, and he comes back already changed out of it, quickly.
Yeah, quick change, definitely.
And gave everybody there a ticket to the movie. That was cool.
Yeah. That was awesome.
But again, we don't have much to talk about Black Adam because we really don't know. He's like the opposite of Superman, where he's
pretty much, yeah,
like the anti-Superman. and maybe they'll pull the Marvel stuff where he's in it as an end credit scene and pull from Marvel and try to do all that stuff, and or who knows? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, at this point, they just have to stop trying to compete with Marvel and just pave their own path, and they're starting to do that. So we'll see. Yeah, he's a big draw. I'm sure it'll make a lot of money. We'll see if it's any good. Um, only time will tell, but it was a good presentation, at least. We'll give him that much.
it was a great. That would have been fun to be there.
Absolutely. I would love to go to Comic-Con.
That would have been fun to be there and see that. And he does get the crowd going. That's what he's done from wrestling. So that's just taking back to his wrestling days.
Yep.
But it looks like a good movie, and that's about it for DC. And John Wick 4 looks good. That was about it.
Yep, John Wick. Forgot about that one. Yeah, that looks solid as well. So a lot of good stuff that they announced, and some of the other properties, some of the other presentations and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff coming out of there.
Yeah. Then let's get to the main event, because everybody, even at Comic-Con, was like, we're looking at Marvel.
Yeah.
Because Feige's like, we have the 10 years planned out already, and we got to look at what's going on. So they came out with a lot. And
yeah, let's start with the animation stuff real quick, because that was the day before, which is it's interesting now looking back on it, because when the last time they made a big presentation like this, they gave us this what they referred to as Phase 4, but it was just a lot of properties. It was just a lot of stuff, most of which at this point has already come out. But it's fitting because I'm bringing this up because they had included What If in that original presentation. What If was a part of Phase 4, so everybody was like, how does it tie in? Well, come to find out that it's really not tied into the MCU. I mean, it is. It's a lot of the same characters, a lot of the same voice actors, but it's not like it's supposed to be an extension of the same universe. It's just an alternate timeline sort of thing. So the fact that they had their own presentation this time for Marvel Animation Studios, which are things we've already known that they've talked about as in conjunction with Marvel, but things that'll all go to Disney Plus. So we got some more information on What If Season 2, which will be coming up. And then they showed some stuff from Marvel Zombies, which they did confirm. That was one thing that they did confirm. That looks pretty cool. That it says, I think that's TVMA, which will be interesting. I haven't seen a lot of that on Disney Plus. So it's going to be dark, which as it should be. And then they showed some stuff from X-Men 97, which is the continuation of the X-Men animated series back from the 90s, which a lot of people are excited about. I remember watching that show as a kid, spending my time after school watching that, and Power Rangers was how I spent my time in the 90s. And then the other one is Spider-Man Freshman Year, which is an animated Spider-Man show that they're going to put on Disney Plus. So don't have a lot about that. But either way, it's kind of cool to see some of these things. I don't know how much attention I'll give a lot of it, just because there's already a ton of Marvel content. So, but either way, it was pretty cool. So that was on Friday. And then Saturday was the big MCU presentation in Hall H. So a lot to talk about with this.
Yes, I even think they said What If Season 3 is coming. They don't know when, but it's already like
I'm sure that they'll keep doing that, just because they just have so many different ideas and things that they want to do, and characters they want to bring in and all that stuff. So What If is a easy, cheap way to keep producing content for Marvel. I mean, that's good. That's good that they have that. I love that they're doing that. I wasn't a huge fan of the first season of it, but whatever. It's not necessarily the problem. It doesn't need to be for me, but it's just an easy way for them to make stuff.
Yeah, it helps. We talked about before. I think that helps fill into where they don't have to come up with brand new content. So this is a way to okay, we can keep them subscribed to Disney Plus and all that. But yes, What If is just that type of show where it set something up and it let us learn about because the spoilers, they gave us what phase this is called, which we all kind of knew anyway.
Yeah.
But it gave us a teaser for how this is going to work. Then we have speculations in the Doctor Strange movie. Is this going to be this? Is it going to be this and all that stuff? But yes, not much to talk about there. But then big Marvel thing happened. He comes out and we learned how Phase 4 will end, and which is not a huge shocker, I guess.
No, it wasn't a huge shocker. I just hadn't really thought about it. I think I was just in this mindset that they had already told us what all Phase 4 was. So here's the thing. Here's the difference. Phases 1, 2, 3 each took up more years. I don't have the exact number in front of me. Hang on. I actually did this research the other day. Well, maybe I got rid of it. I don't know. Either way, the first 3 phases took up more time, but they were only doing movies.
Yes.
Now that they're doing TV shows as well, they're doing whole phases in about 13 months. And they're still giving us the same amount of content, same amount of properties as they were in the first 3 phases. We're just getting them in different forms. So instead of 12 movies taking, 3 years to come out, now we're getting 6 movies, 6 TV shows over the course of just over a year. So I was thinking that this was all part of phase 4. Phase 4 was just going to last forever. I just didn't really know. There was really no guidance anywhere else. That was the last thing we heard, was that this is phase 4. So then Feige comes out, and that's like the first thing he says is phase 4 is coming to an end at the end of this year, which, as I said, shouldn't have been surprising, but I just wasn't totally expecting it, just because I just assumed we were going to keep going with this phase. But it makes a lot of sense the way they're doing it. We're going to have She-Hulk coming up in August on Disney Plus, and then Black Panther: Wakanda Forever in November. And then that will be the end of phase 4. And then phase 5 will start next year with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, which will come out in February of 2023.
Yeah, because the last Comic-Con, he just kind of gave us all these titles.
Right.
Man, the Wasp is one of them. All these titles were a part of this. Now, again, that was before COVID, I believe. Then they had to update it. So before COVID, even, he didn't even say that. He just kind of gave us all these titles.
Yeah, and COVID obviously screwed with a lot of things in terms of release order and a lot stuff we've already talked about ad nauseum on this show. But yeah, COVID screwed up a lot of things. So I think now, anything that happened in 2020 or even like first half of 2021, there was nothing in 2020. So like the first half of 2021, like, don't look at that. But in terms of like how the schedule has gone, basically the second half of this year, that's the model they're going to continue to follow moving forward.
Right. So a lot happened. End of phase 4.
Yeah.
Introduced the entire phase 5. And I want to say about half were already being filmed or are already done being filmed. And then
phase 5, I know they've already, Ant-Man's pretty much done. Well, they're in post for that. They've been working on Secret Invasion. Guardians has been shot or being shot. I know they're working on Loki. They're working on the Marvels. Blade is about to start shooting. I don't know where they are on Echo. I think you did say they're shooting Echo. So yeah, about half of them, I think at this point, have either finished at least shooting and are been post-production or being produced at this point. So yeah, I think you're right.
Which was shocking. That's pretty cool to see. Like, okay, they've already started filming and they're about to, because I think he said it goes Loki right now is being filmed. Guardians is done. The Marvels are doing reshoots. Blade's going to start. And I might be jumping off of your page here. They did change Agatha's title.
Yep. They
did change that, which gives you hope for Wanda because of how it's titled. But that was just pretty cool. And then, the shocker of phase 6, which we can get to later. But then all of a sudden he goes, okay, here's what's going to happen in phase 6. At least three things.
We got 3 things in phase 6 so far.
Yeah. So we got all of phase 5. And like you put in your notes here, which I like you see, now we kind of see what their plan is. Because literally 2 weeks ago, we talked about, we kind of know where they're headed.
Right.
But we also don't know.
Yeah. We had no confirmation on anything.
Right. They came out and said this is now the Infinity or Multiverse Saga.
Yep.
Which we all kind of knew. Even though I kind of wish there was more multiverse stuff, but after they showed it, you were right of where they're headed, which is cool. And looking at the titles of what's coming up, like we know what happened in Loki with the timeline, and we know what's about to happen. We know how Ant-Man's going to work, so that was the fitting title to this.
Yep.
And then phase 6 is done. Right after phase 6, no more multiverse. Now they have to move on to something else.
Yep.
Which we all kind of know where they're headed. I hope.
It's possible. I don't know what they're going to do past this, but we got a long ways to go before we get to phase 7.
Because God, like 2026.
Yeah. 2026 does seem like several years out, but also at the same time, like when we hear that Marvel executives are in the process of figuring out the next 10 years, like 2026 is 4 years down the road. So, I mean, it's really not all that far. We're going like one phase a year at this point. So it'll be here before we know it.
That's true.
But we got to get through phase 4 first. So
I was trying something. Sorry, don't pay attention to that.
Don't pay attention to the man behind the mirror. Let's go through phase 4 real quick, what we know we have left. Because I did mention She-Hulk, which is coming up. They said that's Marvel's first TV comedy, which is interesting, an interesting take on it.
Okay.
I'm cool with that. Like it, I'm not. I lost my screen over here. I'm not really like in love with this show from what I've seen on the trailers. But it has looked better. The CGI has improved, and I knew it would. There was a lot of people complaining about how the CGI looked, and the CGI issue across Marvel and the greater world of film and TV has been an issue for a while, but it does look better. But it looks like it is going to be like a legal comedy, which will be kind of cool. Different, different vibe, different feel to it. Seems like they're going to be heavy on cameos. Both characters we've seen before and characters we haven't, and characters that may or may not ever pop up again. But there was the trailer showed Wong, showed Abomination, which we had known he was popping up in this. Daredevil shows up at the end of this trailer. So we're going to get a first look of Daredevil in the MCU. We already saw Matt Murdock show up once, but he wasn't necessarily being Daredevil at that point. So that was cool. There is the other rumor that I put on here that I know I texted you about the other night. This isn't really a spoiler for anything because there's absolutely no confirmation that this is happening. But the rumor is that Jason Segel is in this show, which is cool. I love Jason Segel. I know Steve loves Jason Segel. We're both fans of How I Met Your Mother. I love Forgetting Sarah Marshall is one of my favorite movies. I love The Muppets. I love Freaks and Geeks. Big Jason Segel fan. So that's the rumor, which is cool enough as it is. The theory, though, behind on top of the rumor is that he's playing Ben Grimm, aka the Thing, aka the fourth member of the Fantastic Four. Don't know that there's any validity to that. It's literally just a theory. I don't know where it started. But after some research, it kind of makes sense. He is Jewish, which I know is a very important thing for that character. So we'll see. I would say that the rumor that he shows up in She-Hulk is probably accurate, I would say. The theory that that's the character he's playing, I don't know that I would put a lot of stock in that, but I think there's probably a decent chance that he shows up in She-Hulk. I don't know what character though. So, but that's pretty cool. Looking forward to that show. That one comes out in August. That'll be the last TV series of Phase 4. Yep. And then we get into Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Yes.
Did you have any thoughts on She-Hulk other than the Jason Segel stuff?
I wasn't too surprised to see Wong because of Shang-Chi, because it showed those two characters together. So
yeah,
the only thing I didn't know, and it may not end up in the show. We all know Marvel puts things in their trailers and then we never see it again. Is when she says, I need the book, and he goes, the Book of Ashanti, and it's like from Doctor Strange. So like, where does this take place? Is this after the Multiverse of Madness? Is this before?
Here's my question. I have a lot of questions I'm gonna pop at you, but here's my first one. Is Wong just like becoming Nick Fury of this saga? I mean, not that he's like assembling a team, but he's just like popping up in all these movies and TV shows. At this point, since we've started Phase 4, Wong has shown up in, let's see. He was in
Spider-Man.
Shang-Chi. Was he in? Did he show up at the end of Eternals? No, he wasn't in Eternals, but he was in Spider-Man. He was obviously in Doctor Strange. And now we know he's in She-Hulk. So that's at least 4 things that we know he's popped up in at just this phase alone. Not that he's assembling a team of Avengers, but just kind of he's just showing up places. So like whatever, I'm cool with that. I like him. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. He's taking Benedict Cumberbatch's spot. Dang.
I have some thoughts about the Benedict Cumberbatch thing too, which we will get to a little later. Wakanda Forever. This was we talked about it when we did our Thor show. We haven't seen anything about this movie.
No.
We knew it was happening. We know obviously everything that happened with Chadwick Boseman and what's going on. That they're obviously we knew they were doing it. It's coming out in November, but we had not seen a trailer for it, which I thought was odd. Worth the wait, man. It was worth the wait. That trailer is fantastic. It is very emotional. I cried during the trailer. I'm 100,000% going to cry during this movie.
I did not cry.
I just have no heart.
Well, I am a football coach, so I am not allowed to have a heart.
No, that's fair.
No, I can see why people did, and maybe I will in the theater. Because, like, did you cry when Tony Stark died?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I had to like take a deep breath. Like, I'm going to cry. Everybody around me is going to cry. I can't do it. Nope. I'm sure I will. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't, but yes. Do I still have a little? We both said we both are not high on this movie because we haven't seen anything, heard anything. With the tragic passing of Chadwick, like we don't know what's going to happen. Seeing the trailer looks cool, but I still want to know more. I don't know anything how this is going to fit in. It's probably going to be the last Wakanda movie because of circumstances. I highly doubt they'll do another one.
They announced that they're doing a Wakanda series.
That could be why they're not doing another movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm higher on this movie now that I've finally seen a trailer.
Yes.
You have to remember here, and something that I have to remind myself. The first Black Panther there are some issues with the CGI. But aside from that, it's the single greatest film achievement they've done. Period. Point blank. If you want to consider the fact that they were able to get so many people together to shoot Infinity War and Endgame, okay, that's its own thing. But from a filmmaking standpoint, like Black Panther is the greatest thing they've done. Right. And it's being directed by Ryan Coogler, who is one of the best directors working today. So you can tell from that trailer that this movie is going to be emotional. It's going to be visually stunning. I'm sure it's going to have a killer soundtrack. It's going to sound great. Am I concerned about the story? Sure, absolutely. Are there parts of what I saw in the trailer that can be concerning? Yes, absolutely. Do I still have a lot of questions? Yeah, absolutely. It was a teaser trailer. That's the point of a teaser trailer, is it's supposed to tease. When we get an actual trailer here in the next couple months, then we'll know a little bit more of exactly what the story is. But I think it's pretty straightforward that the first part of this movie is going to be mourning the loss of T'Challa. And then they're going to have something to do with Atlantis and people taking over. Who knows? But we do know Namor is in this movie. So he's a big figure in Marvel Comics, and I imagine will be a big figure moving forward in the MCU. So I'm excited. I haven't not been excited for this movie, but yes, I was a little hesitant just because we hadn't seen anything. But now that I've seen it, I'm back on board. I think that this has every shot at being, it's hard for me to say that any sequel is going to be as good as the original. Like, that just hardly ever happens. So I'm not expecting this movie to be as good as the original, but I think it can still capture a lot of the magic, and be a damn good movie.
And we all have to stop expecting these billion-dollar movies to keep coming out. It's just not going to be a thing. Like,
well, No, yes and no. I mean, the box office numbers are showing that I think there is clearly fatigue. I think there is Marvel fatigue right now because the numbers are dropping a little bit, but they're still having huge box office numbers. I mean, Doctor Strange and Thor are still both going to be huge movies in the grand scheme of things. I mean,
Right.
they're not going to be Marvel's top grossing movies, but I mean, Thor came out in July, so you're now going to give us 4 months, August, September. Yeah, you're going to give us 4 months before a Black Panther movie. Like, that movie's going to make a lot of money. Like, that will
Right.
be, if the next trailer does its job, that will be the highest grossing movie of the year. I don't doubt it. I do not doubt it. Unless, knock on, well, unless other things hinder it that have nothing to do with the movie itself. I'll say that. Things that are out of anybody's control.
Right.
If that happens, then yes. But I think if everything goes to plan, that will be the highest grossing movie of the year. But I do think there is something to say about the oversaturation and having too many close together and everything. So I do think it'll still do well. Question?
No,
Is that, are we,
it's questions that we can't answer. Like, what's the storyline? Where are they going? But it does visually look great. Like, it's better visually than how they hyped up Eternals already,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Like, it just looks better.
Yeah.
So seeing how it looks, I said, okay. And you're seeing characters from the first Wakanda movie, obviously. So that's going to help a ton to have those type of characters.
Yep.
And then we're just curious to kind of see who will be in the Black Panther suit at the end.
Yep.
We all have our
Yes.
theories, and because that's what I thought. As soon as they showed that, you're like, okay, now who is that? Is it his sister? Is it,
I mean, I think the smart money has to be on Shuri. I think that's where the comics will lead you. But they're not saying that. They're not coming out and telling us that. So, they're leaving something to be interpreted. They're leaving something to be interpreted. Yeah, I think Shuri's the smart money there, but who knows? I think I'll say this. Not that I'm predicting this, not that I'm advocating this, but with how they ended Thor with Valhalla, I think they're attempting. I think that could have been what they did with Jane, basically kind of leaving it open, like she's here, but I think she could maybe go back to Earth. I think that could have been done intentionally to set up possibly Killmonger. I'm not advocating for it. I'm not saying it's happening. There's been no reports that he's in this movie, no rumors that he's really in this movie, at least to much of an extent. But I'll just say that I wouldn't rule that out entirely. I do think Letitia Wright Shuri is the highest probability here, but I wouldn't rule that out.
right.
So that's where my question, though, and this is more of a niche movie geek thing, and I was texting one of my other friends about this, but movies for all these movies, when the credits roll at the end of this movie, who's the first actor that will be listed? Because there's no Chadwick Boseman in this movie. This isn't. No. I mean, this isn't a Thor movie with Chris Hemsworth. This isn't a Doctor Strange movie with Benedict Cumberbatch. We don't know. So it's just interesting. This is a total, what's the word I'm looking for?
This is a hodgepodge
ensemble. It's a total ensemble movie. So I'm just curious who exactly is getting top billed in this movie. I would have to assume it's probably both Letitia and Lupita Nyong'o, but who knows? That's just a niche movie geek question that I kind of have. So I'm very excited. I know I've been a little skeptical about it, but now that I've seen the trailer, I'm fully back in. I'm ready. I love the first Black Panther. It's a fantastic movie. As I said, I know it has some issues with the CGI that some people have stated many times, but it's certainly one of my favorites, and I have high hopes for this, even without Chadwick Boseman in the movie.
Maybe we'll get the Winter Soldier in it.
We might. It wouldn't shock me. I don't know that he'll have much of a role. I wouldn't think that, but I don't know. But that will end Phase 4. So Phase 4 will officially come to a close this November when we finally see Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So now we can go to Phase 5, which is where we have a lot of stuff to talk about. What do you got for me? Yes, you got the image. That's actually not. Somebody was texting me about this. No, that's the right one. That's the right one. I was thinking about a different one. Yeah, so that is the image. Yeah, there's some good stuff there, but really none of it is like super shocking. We'll get to some of the stuff that is super shocking, but
yeah, because
most of these things we knew was happening.
Yeah, we knew about Ant-Man, Guardians, Loki season 2 was announced.
Yep.
Miss Marvels or the Marvels, Agatha, we knew. These are all spoilers. After Captain America, that one, after one.
Yeah, we'd heard that was happening, and we heard there was a director, so we had to assume that it was coming up soon. Yeah, but I think for the most part, Thunderbolts wasn't like super confirmed, but I mean, we did pretty much know that was happening, and we knew they were going to do something with Daredevil. We'll talk about that when we get there, but yeah, not a ton of surprises really with this stuff, and that's where I think, as I talked about at the top of the show, I think that's where, you know, a lot of this report that said don't be like super bummed out when they don't have a ton of surprises for you is
right.
There wasn't really a lot of surprises when it comes to what movies are coming out, and they didn't really bring out a lot of like surprise casting decisions. There was no Mahershala Ali or Natalie Portman that showed up in this Comic-Con panel. So, but yeah, let's start with Ant-Man. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Yes.
People at Comic-Con got to see all these trailers, but they won't show it to the public. And I know they're paying money to see it.
Yes.
They're traveling.
So, I won't advocate for this, and I won't tell you where, but you can find them. They're there. They're not great quality, but you can find them on the internet. So if you know somebody that has that link that might be able to send it to you later, let them know. That's me. I'll send you a link. It's not good quality, but people did do it. Eventually we'll get these trailers. I don't know why. I don't know when, but
I heard because they're actually not done yet. So like
probably
have to see a lower quality of the trailer.
Probably.
But Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania, and I like what you put on your notes. Strategically placed to try to set this up.
Yeah.
For Phase 5.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the Phase 4, I think we will kind of look back on Phase 4 as it was most everything that happened in Phase 4 was a direct result of the snap.
Yes.
Not everything. They weren't all directly connected to it, but like when you look back to Phase 4, like WandaVision was certainly, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki, Black Widow was its own thing because it's, you know, Shang-Chi really wasn't. Eternals mentioned it, but they weren't really part of it. Hawkeye was. No Way Home sort of was for Doctor Strange's character, I guess, but we've already had a Spider-Man since Endgame, but I mean, like a good number of those movies and shows were directly results of what happened after the snap. So I think we'll look back on Phase 4 as not an epilogue for Phase 5, but just kind of like setting things up. We'll kind of slowly get into this multiverse thing. We'll introduce some of these key characters like Kang. But I think a lot of what happened in Phase 4 was results of, you know, follow up from the snap in Phase 3. So now you get into Phase 5. And as I said, as you mentioned, I think that's very strategically done to have Quantumania kick it off, because this is where we're really going to see Kang the Conqueror. We saw a what's the word they're using? A variant of him and Loki. He Who Remains, or whatever they refer to him as. But now we're really going to see Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. But yeah, so we didn't get a ton about this movie. We do know that Catherine Newton will be playing Cassie Lang. She was recast from the girl that played her in Endgame, who was quite a bit younger. So we're going to get an aged up version of Scott Lang's daughter, who will be have a major role in this as well. I did see this illegal trailer, not a very good quality of it, and Bill Murray is in the trailer. Mm-hmm. So Bill Murray is in this movie. I don't know what role he's playing, but Bill Murray is in this movie.
He's supposed to be a villain, I think. But
I don't know if he's a villain. The line he says, he addresses Janet Van Dyne. He addresses her. That's the only clip of him you see is him addressing her. So he clearly has some sort of history with that character. We do know MODOK is in this. MODOK, I don't know a ton about him, but there is a Hulu show recently that came out that was about this character that's not connected to the MCU. But he is going to be in this. There's no confirmation on who's playing this character, but what I've seen, it says that it's going to be Corey Stoll, who played Yellow Jacket in the first Ant-Man. He was trapped in the quantum realm and some variant of him. I don't know how they're going to work it, but I've heard that he is playing MODOK now. However they're doing that, I don't know. But yeah, it's strategically set up to lead up Phase 5. And I'm excited for Jonathan Majors. I mean, he's a great actor. He was great in Loki, and we're going to get a lot of him over the course of the next 3 years. We're going to get a lot of Jonathan Majors. He'll be a figure in this show. I'm sure he'll show up in Loki. We already know we're getting an Avengers movie, spoiler alert, for later in the show that is about Kang. I would venture to guess he shows up more than that. He is going to be he is the Thanos, really, of this saga, of this trio of phases. So very excited for him and to see him because he's great. He was great in, whatever. We didn't really see a lot, but you can find clips from Comic-Con on YouTube and TikTok and stuff, and he was good. So very excited to see him.
I'll be excited. I feel like this will be a more serious Ant-Man movie than the last two.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. So I'll send you the link to these. If you want to go find them, internet, go find them. They're there.
We won't post them here.
I'm not posting them here, but you can find them. They're very poor quality, but it is a very different tone of a trailer than the first two Ant-Man movies. So,
and I'll just be very curious how, because the quantum realm has to do something with multiverse.
Yeah,
I'm very curious.
It's going to be, they said, Peyton Reed said this movie is very much heavy on the quantum realm. So get some more explanation on what exactly that is. We're going to see a lot more of it, it sounds like. So that'll be cool. And yeah, it'll definitely have a lot to do with everything multiverse and all that stuff. They're gonna weave their way through. I know we were concerned about the direction and what they're doing and how they tie things together, but we have to remember that this is Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios, the same company and same production company that tied 10 years of movies up absolutely perfectly in Infinity War and Endgame. So, like, for us to even doubt for a second that they can't do it for these spaces is just stupid and nuts. So we just need to stop that. Secret Invasion. That is going to be the first TV series, Disney Plus series for Phase 5. We didn't get a lot for that. We do know that that's about the Skrulls and about them. So we're probably going to get a lot of reveals as to what characters that we've been seeing for the last 10 plus years that are actually Skrulls. I do know Kobe Smulders was on stage, another How I Met Your Mother reference. Maria Hill, she's been in the MCU since the beginning, so that's no shock. But she's in this show. I think Don Cheadle is in this show again. I don't know how big of a role he's coming in. That's War Machine, Rhodey. I think Sam Jackson is in this show. Amelia Clarke is supposedly in this show from Game of Thrones. So is Olivia Colman, who's like the best actress on the planet right now in terms of the Academy Awards. So like that just adds a whole different level of quality to your show when you have, those type of actors joining your show. I don't know. Again, I don't know what roles and how big of a roles these actresses and characters are having, but I mean, that adds something to it. I think a lot of people probably that aren't, avid comic book readers probably got Secret Invasion and Secret Wars confused, but from what I understand, they really have nothing to do with each other other than the fact that they both have secret in the title. So Secret Invasion coming out in spring 2023. That's the first Marvel Disney Plus series of Phase 5.
And they said it's going to be a dark TV show is what?
Yeah, I would venture to guess that.
It's going to be a dark tone. It's going to be very unlike Marvel-esque of what they do. And I've seen a lot of rumors for this. Won't get into every single one of them. But like, does it take place after the snap? Does it take place in between?
Yeah.
Because we saw Samuel L. Jackson's character and them be snapped away. Were they Skrulls and the real Samuel L. Jackson's dealing with this? We don't know. This might be a show that's set up in between. Because then, like we said at the end of, was it Spider-Man Far From Home? He's up in space on a ship. Samuel L. Jackson, I believe.
Yes, yeah. No, it wasn't. Oh, it might have been Spider-Man. I don't remember.
I think it was Spider-Man
Yeah,
Far
you're
From
right.
Home because they were scrolls. And so I really don't know because Samuel L. Jackson, the picture that showed of him, he's got a long beard. He looks very beat up, very, whatever. And then, so it's all confusing as to what that character has been up to and what's been going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. So yeah, Secret Invasion Spring 2023 is all we know for that in terms of a release. Guardians Volume 3.
The
Um,
last, the
the
last
last,
one.
yeah, James Gunn was on stage at Comic-Con and said that this is the final film of this run of Guardians movies, this run of Guardians characters. He said that doesn't mean they all die, but we're not going to be doing this group of people anymore after this movie. So it will be a complete trilogy after the first two. Sounds like it's very Rocket centric. It's going to be a lot of his backstory, which is cool. That's something we haven't really had. We just kind of teased some things, but we've had some questions about who he is, where he came from, that type of stuff. So it sounds like we're going to get those things. I'm excited for the Quill Gamora thing.
Yes.
I mean, that's where they left that with Endgame, with her being a different version from a different timeline of Gamora. How they're still going to try to make it a love story for Quill, or he wants it to be a love story, but who knows if that'll work. Will Poulter is in this movie, which I'm very excited for him for playing Adam Warlock.
He got buff.
Yes, he did. He is no longer the kid from We're the Millers. He has grown up a little bit since then. But yeah, I mean, I love Guardians. The first Guardians is still my favorite movie of the MCU. Nothing has topped it, even as much as I loved Infinity War and Endgame. Nothing has topped Guardians for me. I don't think it's the best movie of the MCU, but I don't think that's that far off. I didn't love the second one, but I still enjoy it a lot. So very excited for this. Glad James Gunn is back. I know that he had his own issues to work out, so it's why we've taken a little bit longer to get this third film here, but very excited for Guardians 3. They did show a trailer at Comic-Con, which again I have now seen very poorly. It's about what you'd expect. So
I've only seen the picture of Baby Rocket. He looks all sad, and I'm like,
Yep.
oh no.
Yep, we're gonna get some of that. So yeah, very excited for Guardians.
Yeah, and then Chris Pratt said that his character is going to be very all over Gamora, like trying to find her. And then the team's going to feel like the repercussions of him not being focused on what they're doing. And then he tries to make it up to them. And so I wonder again, we said Ant-Man will be a serious movie. Will this still have the Guardians humor? I assume so.
Yep.
But there will be some more serious moments, I'm sure, as this wraps up. And like you said, it'll end strong. And then the door's still open for the characters to come back in other movies.
Yeah,
and stuff.
And I'm sure somebody won't survive. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily saying that we won't see these characters again. I just think it's this version of this Guardians team. Who knows what the future of it will be, but either way, excited for that. So the next few properties that they announced, shows / movies. I use that word properties because, it's not just movies or it's not just shows. It's both. We don't really know a ton about these things. But we do know they're coming, and none of them were really much of a surprise. Echo is coming summer 2023. That's basically the spinoff from the Maya Lopez character from Hawkeye. So we know she's getting her own show that both Matt Murdock, not Deadpool, Daredevil, and Kingpin are both supposed to be in this show as well. So that's coming out in the summer 2023. Also is Summer 2023 is Loki season 2, which, as we did mention, is being shot. I have seen a couple stills from that of Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson together. Other than that, yeah. I assume Kang shows up in this again, but we don't really know that. I don't think. But I assume Sylvie and all those characters will be there. So that's the first Marvel series that has a second season. which is interesting. The rest of these have kind of been considered. I don't really know if they're considering them to be miniseries, because miniseries don't get sequels, don't get second seasons.
Right.
That's kind of the thing. So I don't really know what of these shows are supposed to be series and what are miniseries, but yeah, Loki's getting a second season that'll come out that summer. Don't really know much about that either. We do know that the Marvels is coming in July of 2023. We've known that one. We know that that's the sequel to the Captain Marvel movie. Also kind of a sequel to Miss Marvel, the Disney Plus show that just finished up a couple weeks ago. Carol Danvers is going to be obviously the main focus of that movie. Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, who we last saw in WandaVision, is supposed to play a part in this movie, as well as Kamala Khan from Miss Marvel. That's pretty much going to be the main focus, the three of them. There is a rumor out there that the first hour of this movie is a musical. Would you like to comment on the first hour of this movie being a musical, Steve?
If it's not a Hercules Disney live thing into Thor, I want no part of everybody else doing a musical. No one else deserves it than Hercules.
I have no idea if that's true or not, or why or how or whatever. But
that will not go well for the box office.
Who knows? So Captain Marvel, July 2023. Then we have a little bit of a gap. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know exactly what Echo or Loki will come out. So one of them will probably come out between July and November. But we finally got confirmation on what's coming out in November of 2023. This has been my long nightmare, not a nightmare. This has been the question I've been trying to figure out for like the last 6 months, is that Disney has had their release calendar set up, and there has been a Marvel movie slated for November of 2023 for the longest time, and there was no real confirmation on what that movie was. Blade seemed to make the most sense because they were supposed to start shooting it this month, this July, like 4th weekend or something, was when they were supposed to start shooting it, but they haven't. But they did announce that Blade is finally coming November 2023. It's going to start shooting this October, which is still a tight crunch, if you ask me, but whatever.
Yes.
But yeah, Mahershala Ali, who was announced, seems like decades ago, is playing Blade in this movie. Will this be the MCU's first R-rated movie? I don't know. The original Blade movies were, and that character certainly leads them to be R-rated. The MCU has said that when they do a Deadpool movie, which we'll talk about later, that it will be R. So does that mean they're going to be open to letting Blade be R? I don't know. Does it have to be R-rated to be good? No, not necessarily. We've already seen some horror-ish elements in some of these other movies, but I think Blade, of all of these, probably lends most to an R rating, more so than Deadpool does. I mean, Deadpool, they did that just basically because of the language, and I mean, had some action, gory action stuff, but that's really the language is all that was.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see if that's what happens. Do you want to see an R-rated Blade movie?
Yes and no. Now the Wesley Snipes ones, they're good, but they're not my first movie to pop in.
Yeah, no, mine either.
But it will be, if it's R, it's going to be because of the violence, maybe because if they go the whole supernatural thing, which when we get to it, there's a show out there that I want a season 2 of that's supernatural that they have not talked about yet.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. But did you know he's already played a character in Marvel? He was in Luke Cage.
Yeah. Yes. I did know that. Yeah.
He played a guy in Luke Cage because I'm going to rewatch the Defenders series. So I'm wondering how this is going to be justified.
Yeah.
I don't think
I don't think they're planning to necessarily say that the Netflix shows are canon. We'll have a conversation about Daredevil here in a second, but I don't think they're saying that the Netflix shows are MCU canon. I think they're going to pick some elements from the Netflix shows and maybe throw them into the MCU like they have already with Kingpin and Daredevil. But I don't know that they're necessarily gonna just add all of that to the MCU. But I don't know. We'll see. but yeah, that's coming up. Finally, we know that that's coming out November of 2023. Kit Harington, I assume, will probably be in that movie because he was Dane Whitman in Eternals, and he was in the post-credit scene, and that was Mahershala Ali's voice that was talking to him. So I would imagine that he's going to be in that movie as well. And yeah, so that's kind of that movie. Ironheart, which is coming up, Disney Plus series. It'll be sometime in the fall of 2023. You have questions? Look like you have a question, or you look disgruntled.
No, I was reading.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's gonna be Riri Williams, the character played by Dominique Thorne, who's we're first going to see in Wakanda Forever. We already saw her in the trailer, so she will get her own series in the fall of 23.
Is she hitting the hammer?
Yeah.
Okay, that was the Iron Man thing
making her suit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So
obviously there's a connection to Iron Man is the story. Yeah.
Because that's why I didn't know anything about it. So I'm like, is this something to do with?
Yeah, she's another younger character, similar to Miss Marvel, I think.
So they are setting up young Avengers the more this goes on.
Yeah, I think that's obvious at this point. We'll see when we get them. I have some thoughts on that we can talk about here in a little bit, but yeah, so that's coming fall of 2023. Don't really know a lot about that other than that she's going to be in it and that we'll see her in Wakanda Forever. Then later in 2023, maybe possibly early 2024, we're going to get the Agatha show, which has been changed from Agatha House of Harkness to Agatha Coven of Chaos. Chaos, probably reference to Chaos Magic, which has been brought up with Wanda. That's what Wanda uses, so that's probably some sort of connection. But I loved Catherine Hahn.
Love it.
In WandaVision, I thought she was fantastic. So I'm so on board with her getting her own show and letting her work with that character even more. So we'll get that in about a year or so, a little over a year probably. So excited for that. Then, as I already mentioned Daredevil, but we are getting a Daredevil MCU series called Daredevil Born Again that we're going to get in the spring of 24. This has been announced as an 18 episode series.
And I'm
here for it. Yes.
I'm here for it.
I am as well. I enjoy Daredevil, the show on Netflix. I haven't watched all of it. I just never really got into the Netflix shows. I just didn't. And that's my own fault. And I probably should have, and I know I should go back. And, so I'm having this like internal debate if I need to like go back and watch those. I get the idea that they're not necessarily saying, as I said, I don't think that's like canon. I don't think that the Netflix shows are going to be necessarily like a part of the MCU. So I get the idea that we're kind of more or less starting over with this character, but it's the same actor, same actors, because Vincent D'Onofrio, Kingpin, is going to be in this as well. So I think they're going to more or less start over with the character. But we'll see. I don't know if that's definitely what we're doing, but yeah, 18 episodes. That's a lot. I mean, all these other MCU shows have been like 9, I think, right?
They've been anywhere from 6 to 9.
So, yeah, 18 is a lot. That's double 9. So, yeah. Sorry, cut this into text. I guess my concern, and I'd have to like actually look at the calendar, but like 18 seems like a lot of weeks. I wouldn't like, not for a TV show. Like if this was just some TV show on Netflix and they wanted to release it one episode every week, like that's fine. But with this, they're cramming 12 different properties into 13 months, like 18 weeks is a long time. So I don't know if that's going to be a weekly, one episode a week thing like they've been doing, or if they might drop like, I don't know how they're going to do it, but that's a lot of episodes.
Yeah, because all it says is spring 2024. Does that mean March? Because then you've got Captain America coming out May 3rd.
Right. Exactly. So I don't know. I don't know. We don't know the dates for the Disney Plus shows. They just gave us seasons. So we just know that spring of 2024. And it's not like there hasn't been overlap between movies and shows. Like that's already happened. That's been happening. You're going to continue to have that. But I just think with 18 as opposed to 9, you're really stretching it. So We'll see. But yeah, that's coming out spring of 2024. And then, as you mentioned, Steve, Captain America: New World Order coming May 3rd, 2024. Very excited.
No more Steve Rogers.
No more Steve Rogers. Sam Wilson has the shield. He took over the shield in the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. And now it's Sam Wilson's shield to own. So we heard this was happening a little while back, and I do believe there's a director already tied to this. So they are moving forward with the 4th Captain America movie. There will now have been 4 movies and a whole TV series dedicated to Captain America. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I've enjoyed Anthony Mackie in the MCU as Falcon.
Yep.
And Falcon and Winter Soldier wasn't a great TV show when you compare it to the rest of the universe and all the movies and stuff, but I still enjoyed it. I enjoy him. I really like him and Sebastian Stan, him and Bucky together. Like, their dynamic is great. I assume he'll be in this as well. I don't think you can have another captain. I don't think you can have a movie without him. I think Sebastian Stan is going to be in this movie. Probably another political action thriller type of movie, similar to what Winter Soldier was.
Right.
And even kind of Civil War was, although Civil War was kind of like a Avengers movie almost. Then it wasn't. I'm going to guess, because the next movie that will come out after this is Thunderbolts. I'm going to guess that Bucky will have some sort of an arc in this movie that leads to his potential role in Thunderbolts, would be my guess.
Yep.
Because I think there's a good chance that Bucky will be a member of the Thunderbolts, which is the next movie that comes out in July of 2024. So that's kind of my prediction, is that Bucky will have some sort of an arc in the Captain America movie that will lead to his role in Thunderbolts.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you think? You excited?
I am excited. I am excited for new stuff going on in this phase. We're going to have stuff coming out all the time. I wanted to let you know, if you decide to watch the Defender series, they do reference the Avengers in it, so I'm very curious how that works. I've watched the first 2 seasons of Daredevil, but then before you watch the 3rd one, you have to watch the Defenders because it leads into that.
Yeah.
But then you have to understand the other characters, so I've had to watch all of them. I'm trying to finish Ironheart right now, and it's a struggle. It's a struggle bus because it's not the best. I do think they have a place in the MCU because of Kingpin being there and Daredevil. Now, whether they could pull the whole thing of that's a whole other universe, they could pull that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a topic for another day. I don't know what they'll do with those characters down the road, but yeah, I do think they are obviously looking to pick certain aspects from those shows and bring them into this MCU. They're just starting with Daredevil and Kingpin. So yeah, it's certainly possible that we see more of those down the road, and we might see them in Secret Wars. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But, I think that's certainly a possibility.
And I apologize. This is supposed to be a short episode, but it's not. So I apologize to Logan. He's got to mow his grass.
No, we're fine. We're fine. We're good. We're only at an hour.
He's going to get a text. Get off.
We don't got that much more. So
I'm excited. Thunderbolts will be a cool way to kind of wrap up, because I'll wrap up Phase 5, right?
Yes, that'll be the end of Phase 5. Thunderbolts, the Thunderbolts movie, July of 2024. That'll wrap up Phase 5. The Thunderbolts is kind of like the MCU's version of the Suicide Squad, kind of like a group of anti-heroes. This will likely be the team that Val has been forming, I believe, is what we'll do here. She showed up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier to essentially recruit John Walker. Then she showed up in Black Widow to kind of recruit Yelena. So I would guess both of those characters will be involved in this. As I already mentioned, Bucky, I think he'll be involved. Abomination, I think, could be involved. Baron Zemo, who was also in Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think he could be involved. Plus, I think they'll have other characters that we haven't seen before. So I'm not saying that all of those characters will be in this movie, but I think that's kind of the group you're going to pull from, plus some other people too. So yeah, that'll be the way that they close out Phase 5. So I think had Kevin Feige ended his presentation there, I think people would have been disappointed. I think if that's all they announced, most things that we already knew in Phase 5, granted, you see some trailers and stuff, I think people at that point would have been disappointed. However, that's not where he stopped. He went on to Phase 6. And he gave us 3 movies that are coming out in Phase 6 between November of 2024 and November of 2025. So again, we're just talking 13 months here. Same thing for Phase 5. Phase 5 is going to start February of 2023, and it's going to end in July of 2024. So that's a little over, that's like 13 or 15 months or something like that. But still, we're talking about a year and a half, not like 3 years. So Phase 6 sounds like it's going to be 13 months long. It's going to start according to this, although I'm not totally sure how exactly it's going to start. But they're saying the first movie will be Fantastic Four, that's going to come out in November 2024. We've known this was coming. We knew that Fantastic Four was coming. He announced this decades ago, whenever the last Comic-Con or whenever event that was. However, we still don't know who's directing this movie. We still don't know who is in this movie. We still don't know what storyline they're going to use for this movie, but they at least gave us a date for Fantastic Four.
Because we thought that was going to be the Blade one in November. We were like, it has to be Blade or Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been, obviously. That was certainly on the table. But yeah, that's how they're going to... See, they're saying that that's how they're going to start Phase 6. But as you can see from the image that Steve has pulled up there, they are technically slotting something in before Fantastic Four. So I have some questions about that, and I'm not exactly sure how that will work. My guess is that's a TV show, but I don't really know that they want to start Phase 6 with a TV show. So I don't know what this means. I have some theories, and we can talk about that here in a minute. But we do know Fantastic Four is coming November 24th. I will venture to, well, I'm pretty certain that at D23 in September, we will get more information about this movie. I imagine we'll get a director, and we'll at least get a couple of cast announcements.
Right.
I don't know that we'll know the whole Fantastic Four. I don't know that we'll know who's playing the villain, but I think we'll learn something at D23. But we at least know that that movie is coming out November of 2024. Then they also gave us 2 Avengers movies. Steve, we are getting 2 Avengers movies in the year 2025. Not like Infinity War and Endgame, where we had a year between. 2 Avengers movies over the course of like 6 months.
When they said no more Avengers movies, you remember that whole thing?
Yeah, that was also a thing too. Yeah, they said we're not going to do any more Avengers movies. Okay. Yeah, get off your high horse. That's some BS. No, not only are they giving us Avengers movies, they're giving us 2 in the year of 2025 alone. Avengers Kang Dynasty is coming May of 2025, and then November of 2025 will be Avengers Secret Wars, which, as I talked about on the last show, has been the direction that they have seemed to be going throughout Phase 4. So that is what we know it's coming in Phase 6. Plus, on top of that, they gave us the release schedule for other properties, but they didn't tell us specifically months. They didn't tell us properties. So this is where my theories are going to come into play here, but they tell us fall of 24, there's supposed to be 2 properties that come out. Winter of 2024, we're supposed to get something. Winter of 2025, we're supposed to get something. Spring of 2025, we're supposed to get 2 properties. Summer of 2025, we're supposed to get 2 properties, and then the 3 that we already know. So we'll get to the theorizing for that here shortly. What do you think? What do you think? Fantastic Four, 2 Avengers movies? Is it too much?
I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough. No, that's going to be a huge year. And Feige's the only one that could pull off 2 Avengers movies within months of each other. Like,
so here's Here's the thing. This is already a big phase.
Yes.
I mean, you're talking one phase, which is as listed is 11 properties. Although the way that graphic shows, they clearly are planning to have something else between there. What's that gap? May and summer?
Yeah.
I think they're going to have 4 things come out in the summer of 2023 or summer 2025. I don't know. That's besides the point. My point is, this phase alone, we're already getting 2 Avengers movies and the Fantastic Four, which is Fantastic Four is the Marvel property. That is the coveted Marvel property. Granted, they have not had very good success at the movies with that property, with that franchise. That is the Marvel property. So already, without knowing anything else, we already have one heck of a phase coming up in Phase 6. That's before we even get to what could also possibly come out in that phase, which we'll get to in a second. Before we get into other theories, well, what are your thoughts? You ready for Phase 6? I mean, we still got to get through all of Phase 5 first. But again, we're only talking like a year and a half from now. So
when this first came out, I was all excited. I was like, oh my gosh, 2 Avengers movies. But my first thought was, oh my God, we got to wait until, summer of 2026 and it's only, or 25 and it's 2022.
But again, as I said at the top of the show, it's not like we're waiting years for this thing. Like in the past, when they announced 2 phases, you're talking like 5 or 6 years down the road. You're talking 3.
That's true.
You're really talking 3 years. I mean, whatever.
But it's finally getting Fantastic Four. They had it out even before COVID happened. Like, we're going to get Fantastic Four. And we're still sitting here waiting. And then you tease us with Krasinski and Doctor Strange, and that just ramped it up. Like, just get it on, get over with. Then Jason Segel pops up. Like, something's happening here.
Jason Segel hasn't popped up yet.
Well, rumors. When you start rumoring it around on Twitter, because I told myself, WandaVision and Doctor Strange have scarred me with this. And then that popped up, and I was like, damn it, Logan. Now I have to start looking at this. I have to know.
Yeah, so that's what was announced during the Marvel panel at Comic-Con on Saturday. We learned what Phase 5 was. We learned 3 things that are coming out in Phase 6. We will still have D23 coming up in September, where we're going to learn a lot more stuff, I would think. I know we're going to learn a lot more stuff. Just don't know what. But there were quite a lot of things that weren't announced. And again, I'm sure we'll learn some of these things at D23, but I just kind of want to list off a few things that were not mentioned by Kevin Feige. Okay? So follow me here. The first 2, Werewolf by Night, or the Marvel Untitled Halloween special, and the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
Oh, now, I forgot about
both of those things are supposed to be coming out this year. The Halloween special is supposed to come out in October, which is supposed to be Werewolf by Night, but I don't know if that's ever actually been said. And then the Guardians thing, which they already shot. They did it when they shot Guardians 3. That's supposed to come out in December. I just thought it was interesting that they didn't mention either of those. I don't know what these are. I don't know how long these are. They're only going to be like one episode, probably like 40 minutes each. Would be my guess. I don't think these are going to be like super important in the grand scheme of the MCU, especially the Guardians one, probably. But I still think it's interesting that they didn't even announce them. They didn't even mention it as a part of Phase 4. So I just don't know now, are these a part of this? Like, does it fit in there? I mean, it's going to be the same characters. It's going to be, it's the same group as in doing the Guardians thing. So I just thought that was interesting that they didn't include those anywhere. Again, not that they're going to be super important. They might be, but the fact that they weren't mentioned anywhere was kind of interesting. Well, yes, I didn't even include that. That's part of the animation thing.
Okay. Maybe that's what they're doing with that too. Maybe that's not.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. They did mention I Am Groot during the animation panel. I forgot to mention that on here. But yes, they already did talk about that. But these 2 things are live action. They're not animated. I don't know. Again, I don't know that they're that important to the overall story. I just thought it was interesting that they didn't even mention them as a part of Phase 4. All right. So after that, there was not one mention of the word mutant or the X-Men.
Okay, I gotta sit back for this one. Yep.
You have a thought?
No, I'm just on board because you went on a nice tweet.
I have a lot. We'll talk about my theories here in a second. I'm just going over the things that haven't been mentioned. So there was nothing about the X-Men. There was nothing about I do that all the time. Deadpool. There was nothing about either of those two coming in Phase 5 or Phase 6. We'll get to that. There was no mention of Armor Wars, which is the supposed to be a series starring Don Cheadle, War Machine, that they announced a while back. There was no mention of that either. There was no mention of a Shang-Chi sequel, which we have heard rumors about. There was no mention of an Eternal sequel, which there has been rumors about. There was no mention of Spider-Man, which is a Sony thing, so I don't necessarily think that I would expect that to come up. If Sony's going to announce another Spider-Man movie, they're going to do that on their own terms, and it'll be on their own schedule. But either way, there was no mention of Spider-Man. There was no mention of this supposed Wakanda series, which we're supposed to be getting. And there was no mention of Doctor Strange, which I don't know that there's even necessarily rumors out there about a next Doctor Strange movie. But as you mentioned earlier in the show, we have been seeing these actors pop up, these characters pop up in these stingers, post-credit stingers that we don't know when they're supposed to come up. So we did not mention anything about Doctor Strange. So none of those things were mentioned anywhere as a part of Phase 5, which we supposedly saw a completed Phase 5. Mm-hmm. And then we also saw 3 of what is shown to be 11 things coming out in Phase 6. You follow?
I'm following. I'm following.
Do you have any comments on any of those things before I get into theory time?
I thought it was weird that there was no X-Men talk, because apparently we were talking about before, we are building to Secret Wars, but in order to get there, you would think, now that you own the properties to X-Men, you said the word mutant in the Marvel show. You hinted at Ralph Boner and WandaVision. You're doing these things that are leading us on to X-Men, and no mention of them. Now, obviously, we still have Disney's, Expo thing coming up. That's where they can announce the Guardians holiday thing. That could be something like, oh, this is a family thing, and they're going to announce it.
Yeah.
You are right. Like, are they Eternals 2? You end with that end credit scene. How do you move on and get that involved? Yep. Is he setting up Phase 7? Who knows? Is that getting way pushed down the road? Shang-Chi 2? There may not be a 2, because that might incorporate with something else. We have no idea. You would think a Doctor Strange 3 would be coming because of how it ended, because of that end credit scene. And I don't want to get on I hate getting on Doctor Strange soapboxes, because everybody knows how I feel about Benedict Cumberbatch and Doctor Strange. But you can't sit there and say Doctor Strange is the vocal point, the new head guy for this phases, and then you only have him in one thing. Now, can he pop up in other things here in Phase 5? Absolutely he can. But when you look at the titles, and I tweeted this, to me, there's only 1 or 2 things he can pop up in that makes sense. Ant-Man, if they're going to deal with all that. Loki Season 2, because of what happened. And then somebody said maybe Secret Invasion, but I don't know if that's going to work. Is Wong is taking over that role? Who knows? But those are my rambling thoughts on some of this, where they're not talking about them and bringing it up.
Okay, so I have a few things to talk about based on what you just said. I'm just trying to decide where I want to start.
And the Spider-Man thing, Sony's not there, so they're not going to say.
Yeah.
Today they said Spider-Man and Daredevil are supposed to have something, because in the comic book they are.
I could see that. So, okay, I'll start with the Doctor Strange thing. Well, no, I got to start with this. I'll come back to Doctor Strange. So, what I've been thinking about this a lot since this was announced on Saturday. They gave us 11 slots for properties that are going to come out in Phase 6. Okay. We already know what 3 of those are. We know that there's a movie coming out in November of 2024, a movie coming out in May of 2025, and a movie coming out in November of 2025. And then, as I already mentioned, we know fall 24, fall 24, winter 24, winter 25, spring 25, spring 25, summer 25, summer 25. That's 11 properties. As you're pulling up Doctor Strange. So, hear me out. I know people want. I know I just listed off all these movies, all these properties that didn't get mentioned. Those aren't all coming in Phase 6. In fact,
No.
I don't know that most of those are coming in Phase 6. And here's why. Just about everything that I just went down that list: X-Men, Deadpool, not Armor Wars. I won't count that. X-Men, Deadpool, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange. Those are all movies. Those are not TV series. And the way they're doing it, the way they've done Phase 4 and Phase 5, and the way that they've structured that list that they just gave us for Phase 6, I think there's only 2 movies left in Phase 6. I think the other 5 slots are going to go to TV or the other 6 slots are going to go to TV shows. I don't see how they can do it. I think you're going to get a movie in February of 2025, which will be one of the winter of 2025 slots. And I think you're going to get a movie in July of 2025, which would be one of the summer of 2025 slots. That gives you 5 movies in a 13-month span. That's already a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those other 6 spots are going to go to TV shows. So that whole list that I read off, they're just not coming. We're not getting those movies in Phase 6, which is fine. I'm not suggesting that we have to get those movies in Phase 6, but we're just not. I think, as I said, I think you only have 2 slots for movies. And if one of them isn't X-Men, I'd be shocked. I think X-Men has to be in this. And the reason, and we'll get into the Secret Wars thing, but I think X-Men has to be one of these. I think we are to that point now where they are coming. So that's why I said it's already a big phase as it is with 2 Avengers movies and Fantastic Four. And now you're also going to include the X-Men. Like, that's huge. That is a huge, if we're already worried about box office fatigue from the MCU now, just wait till in the span of 13 months, you get 2 Avengers movies, a Fantastic Four movie, and an X-Men movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. I mean, they are really banking on that 13 months of being a huge financial year for Disney and Marvel. As I said, I think one of those slots will be an X-Men movie. I know I said on Twitter that I thought it was going to be super heavy on mutants and X-Men, which it could be. The other thought that I've had is that as I said, there are 6 slots there that I think will go to TV shows. I could see them doing something with using a couple, 2 to 3 of those TV show slots for mutant-centric shows. And then leading into like an X-Men movie, maybe in that July slot. So maybe doing like, I don't know, that'd be a Wolverine show. And I'm not going to sit here and try to list off all the X-Men, but I could totally see them doing 2 to 3 of those TV shows as origins for some of the X-Men that will then all be in the X-Men movie that comes out in July that year. I don't know. Maybe that's a lot. But that's kind of one of my thoughts, just because like that's a lot of properties and most of them I think are going to be TV shows. So I don't know how they're going to do it, but that's just kind of my thought. What that second movie is though, or that 5th movie, I don't know. I don't know. It could be any number of those things that I mentioned. It could be, I mean, Deadpool's interesting because we know that they're doing a Deadpool movie. They've confirmed that. They've said it's going to be rated R. We know that Sean Levy is directing it. I could see Deadpool just showing up somewhere else. That's totally fine, but we know he's getting a movie. So like I don't know that we're going to have Deadpool and the X-Men as those other 2 movies, because I just don't think we're going to get another movie in there. I think that's just too many. So that's kind of where I'm at. What do you think? Am I crazy?
You're not crazy, but I like the idea of mutant shows and leading up to a movie, but is that too much mutants?
It probably is, and I don't know. I mean, one of those slots will assuredly be Armor Wars. I mean, let's just knock that out now. Like one of them's gonna be Armor Wars. The only other series that I know they have mentioned is the Wakanda series. So maybe one of them is the Wakanda series, but I could totally see them waiting on that and making that a Phase 7 thing, whatever Phase 7 involves. I don't know. But other than that, we don't really know much in terms of TV series. They could pull up a lot of different random things. But I think it could be a lot of. I think it could be a lot of mutants. But I think, as I mentioned on Twitter, I think they could go mutant heavy, because they're gonna. That's the other thing too, and goes back to the Doctor Strange thing that I wanted to talk about. Secret Wars requires you to have a lot of factors. When I say that Secret Wars is Infinity War on steroids, I mean that. Like, Secret Wars, according to what I think there's two different storylines they could follow, but Secret Wars typically, I think, would involve mutants. I think it would involve multiple universes. I think it would involve an Illuminati. I think there's a lot of things that would potentially be involved in a Secret Wars movie. So I think you have to have the X-Men. How they do it, how they introduce them, I don't know. But I just think that happens. So I don't know. Will it be too much? Maybe. Maybe they don't do that, but that's just kind of where I'm at, because you have 11 spots there, and I don't know what fills all those.
Well, in Secret Wars, let's even get more crazy on steroids. You have to have X-Men. You have to jump in multiple universes. Do you bring Sony back into the mix? Because do you have to show a Spider-Man universe with Tobey Maguire in them? Does that have to come back?
That's why I mentioned the Netflix movies. I think I think it could, if they wanted to go all out and blow Endgame out of the water, they could. They could incorporate the Sony characters. They could incorporate the Netflix characters, and have it be one large multiversal war, essentially. I think that could be what we're leading to. And you might involve those characters. So I don't know what Sony's doing. They said they're making another Spider-Man movie. I don't know when that'll happen. They'll announce that on their own. The other thing in terms of the schedule that I did want to point out, I'm not saying this is happening. This is just kind of like a weird theory that I have, just going off of their history and what they've done. They have nothing scheduled to come out February of 2023. No, they do. February of 2024. There's nothing on the schedule. Right? Is that what I wanted to say? How did I think? I thought about this earlier, and I was trying to think how it would work out. I don't know. Either way, I wondered. Yeah, it's February 2024. They don't always use February, so it's possible that they're just not planning to use it. But I could totally see them dropping in Deadpool February of 2024. It's not on the schedule they already gave us. They basically gave us a completed version of Phase 5, and maybe that is the completed version of Phase 5. But the first Deadpool did have a February release, and I could see them throwing that in there and surprising us with that at D23. That would free up an extra spot in Phase 6. Just kind of a thought. Or that could be an X-Men movie too, honestly. I don't think they would do that, but it could be. But I did mention, I want to go back to the whole Doctor Strange thing, because I mentioned the Illuminati. I think I talked about Wong kind of being like we've already seen Nick Fury going around building a team of Avengers. We've seen Val now going around starting to build her team of Thunderbolts. Wong has popped up. I don't know when we're going to get another Doctor Strange movie, but I think we could see Doctor Strange pop up in some movies to build an Illuminati. I think Doctor Strange could pop up at the end of Black Panther to pull in Namor, because he is a consistent member of the Illuminati throughout the history of Marvel Comics. I think he could show up in Captain Marvel or the Marvels and pull her into the Illuminati. I could see him popping up in Captain America, pulling Sam Wilson. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not saying that this is happening. Kind of my thought, because I do think the Illuminati is going to play wars. So I'm just wondering, he's probably going to be the one that builds that because he has seen it already in a different universe. So that's just kind of my thought. That's maybe where you could start seeing him a little bit more. Maybe not in his own movie, probably in these next two phases. But maybe potentially building that. I don't know. I don't know if that really fits into the timeline of how they ended Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness or not, but that's just kind of my thought as a possibility of where you could see him pop up.
Yeah, that makes sense. I, I swear I'm not doing this because of the fanboy thing. It's just when these new phases come out, that was the first thing you talked about 2 weeks ago. Who is Captain America now? Who is Tony Stark? Like, who is this person that's going to build this up? And they claim it's Doctor Strange because of who he is, what he's done.
Who claims that?
I saw a report, and I think Feige said it, or somebody had been interviewed, and they said it was when Benedict Cumberbatch got to go to the walk and put his hands in the cement, and he was saying that Doctor Strange is now a cemented central figure of the MCU.
I mean, I'm sure he is. He's not Iron Man. He's just not. He's not Tony. He's not Steve Rogers. As I already talked about, I could see him being a central figure in forming the Illuminati 100%. I think he's a part of that. But I don't know that his movies, his character has led them to want to build another however many movies around him and be that person. I think they're past that at this point. I think they're going to start using X-Men more and Fantastic Four more. And I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know when we're getting his next movie. I'm not even sure that he knows when he's getting another movie. It could certainly be Phase 6 in one of those spots, but I don't know that that's necessarily true. I don't know. I don't know that they'll do 2 Doctor Strange movies in the course of what will be 3 years. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I'm just trying to find the quote for you because
I believe you. I feel like I've seen that about other people too, and we haven't really seen it yet. We haven't really figured out who we're supposed to care about in this universe. Who's running this show? Who are the Avengers? I know Ant-Man refers to himself as an Avenger, but like, who are the Avengers? Whatever. All right, we need to start shutting this thing down. A couple other things I want to talk to you about. There has been reports that the Russos want to be back in the MCU. They want to direct something. Kevin Feige said in an interview that they're not doing the Avengers movies,
and it's a bold statement.
Do you believe him that the Russos are not doing either of the Avenger movies?
I don't believe him.
Yeah, I don't either.
They will have to bring them back for at least Secret Wars. If you're going to go Endgame on steroids,
I say that, but I also think that I have a hard time believing that the Russos won't direct an upcoming Marvel movie. And I think there's a good chance that it's one of either Fantastic Four, one of the 2 announced Avengers movies, or an X-Men movie. I think the Russos will direct one of those 4.
Mm-hmm.
What ones, I don't know. But I think that they will be involved in one of them. I don't know if the person that directs Kang, the first Avengers, will also... I don't know if this is like a part 1 and part 2. Like, that's a strange release strategy to have those 2 movies coming out within a few months of each other. Calling them both Avengers movies. I think that's interesting. So yeah, I assume they'll come up somewhere. I just don't really know when. How long does Kevin Feige do this?
Until he dies.
You think so?
But you put that at the end there, and I was laughing at it. But then when you said Secret Wars, from what you read about the comic book and what they'll do, if that's on steroids, is that his big boom? Like bringing everything he just helped create in the MCU into that seat because first of all, Kang Dynasty Avengers movie is going to be huge too. That's going to be a humongous Avengers movie. That's going to maybe beat Endgame on its own. And then you get Secret Wars. And if that's going to be his big bang, that could be his way to go out. But also, if you've built this up to this big monstrous thing, do you want to hand it over to somebody? Yeah. Especially since you have 10 years planned out, do you trust somebody else to come do it?
I'm with you. I don't know. Like, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what he's going to do. It's just something to think about.
So here's the quote. I found it.
Okay.
It's a long one.
When's it from?
December of 21.
Okay.
Sorry, March 1st, 2022 from IGN.com. Kevin Feige calls Doctor Strange anchor of the MCU. Benedict has turned this character into an icon, appearing in a historic 3 of the top 6 films of all time. I remember our first meeting setting up as a general. We wanted to pitch him this great character. He said, so tell me about Doctor Strange because you knew he wanted it to be it. As you've been a tremendous you've seen the tremendous potential in this character. Because of that, you've become the anchor of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the only actor capable of guiding us through the madness of the multiverse.
I mean,
Now,
sure.
I'm not saying this because of the fanboy thing, but when you build this up and then now we're sitting here going, well, do we not see him again until Kang in the Avengers? That's a long time for you to wait of a guy that's, because again, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, because of the title, threw us for a loop. If that movie went the way we all thought it would, you could sit there and probably say, yes, he's the person to guide you through this. Because of the way it went, now you don't know what this is going, how this works.
I think I just answered this. I think I've already answered this for you. I think he's going to show up and build an Illuminati.
Well, yes. Until then, until you said that to me, I had no idea. Now, when you say that,
that's just my theory, and I haven't. There's no reports or anything that say that or any confirmation on that, but that's my guess. I think the Illuminati will play a part in Secret Wars. I think they're going to build this team. I think he'll be involved because he has experienced it already. I think there's a good chance he could end up appearing in some of these movies and showing. And I do not think there will be another Doctor Strange movie before Secret Wars. I just don't. I think
if you had to pick 3 things or 2 to 3 things that have to happen before Kang, Avengers, or Secret Wars, what do they have to be?
I think we need the X-Men. I don't necessarily know that the Illuminati is like a must-have for Secret Wars. But that's just kind of my guess is what something they might do. I think
I want to throw you another curveball.
We haven't mentioned Young Avengers, or maybe you did earlier. I could see that being a TV show.
Yes. Okay.
And I could see them maybe playing a part in Secret Wars. I think the idea of Secret Wars is that it's multiple universes and it's going to be multiple groups of heroes essentially fighting with and against each other. So in that case, you have your current 616 Avengers, you have whatever they do with Fantastic Four or X-Men, maybe the Netflix people, maybe the Sonyverse, maybe former people from some of these other universes, maybe somebody from the Fox X-Men, something like that. I don't know. What does that mean though? What do we need to see before then? The other name that I had seen something about, and I'm not a comic book reader, so I don't know everything, but I saw somewhere where somebody said that you need Miles Morales to do Secret Wars. I don't know that that's necessarily a thing, and I won't be shocked if we do get a Spider-Man movie at some point that introduces Miles Morales. But I don't know that that's necessarily a requirement. So to answer your question, you definitely need the X-Men. We know we're getting the Fantastic Four. I imagine Doctor Doom will be introduced, which is a character we haven't mentioned much. I think he will be instrumental in Secret Wars as well. So yeah, and then maybe the Illuminati. I think there's makes some sense that that's something that they'll try to do, and that's just that could be your way to integrate Doctor Strange into more of the future of this. He's obviously going to be involved in the Avengers movies. He'll be involved in both of them, I would assume. But again, I don't think he's getting his own movie before then. So yeah, I think that kind of.
That's a great theory with Illuminati. I didn't even think of that. That's a great thing. Like he's seen it in a different universe. Now he knows.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw another curveball because it was the Young Avengers. Now I have another one real quick. The rumors of Scarlet Witch getting her own thing.
her own show or her own movie or something.
Could that be slated in there somewhere?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I think there could be a lot of things. Again, I just don't know that there's that many movies left before Secret Wars.
And White Vision's
So,
out there somewhere.
yeah, I've heard West Coast Avengers could be a thing with White Vision. I mean, I think there's a lot of theories out there. And yes, there are, however many, there are 8 open slots that we know of between now and Secret Wars in November of 2025. But as I've already said, I don't think more than 2 of those slots go to movies. I could see them maybe adding something in there somewhere, but it's going to be mostly TV shows. And most of these characters we talked about, I don't think are TV show characters. I don't think they're TV show stories. I think the TV shows are going to be reserved for smaller characters, smaller stories. I just don't see Doctor Strange isn't going to get a TV show. Benedict Cumberbatch isn't going to do a TV show. Deadpool is not going to be on a TV show. So I don't know. I don't know.
I think it'll be X-Men characters because they've made a comment about.
I could see that.
They're using TV shows as a way to introduce new characters other than movies.
I could see it. I really could.
I think we need to see X-Men. I think we need to see Deadpool, movie or not. He needs to pop up.
He'll pop up. I don't have any doubt that I'm kind of surprised he hasn't popped up to this point. I think he'll pop up somewhere.
And I do think you need to see something with Doctor Strange, whether it's his own movie or he is in a movie like Spider-Man. If you're going to do something with multiverse again and continue this on, he has to pop up, or Wong in a bigger role. But yes, I think we need to see that.
I don't know that Doctor Strange will be like the second build character in a movie like he was for Spider-Man. I just don't see that happening. I could see him popping up in a Nick Fury type of way. But I at this point, I don't know what it would be. I don't think that's. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something coming up down the pipe that I'm not thinking of where he could show up. But he could show up in Agatha.
Ooh, that's
he
true.
He could show up in Quantum Mania. He could show up in a lot of these things. Honestly, I don't see him showing up in Guardians of the Galaxy, or Echo. Maybe Blade. I think that goes back to the supernatural thing I think you were referencing maybe earlier. I don't know.
Moon Knight 2, could that be slated into that?
Could be. I mean, I think that I don't think this is happening before Phase 6. Whatever that is, I think that's down the road. We've already seen what Phase 5 is. We've already seen a good chunk of not a good chunk. We've already seen a third of what Phase 6 is going to be, or a fourth of what Phase 6 is going to be. Maybe. Obviously, some of these things are going to slot into some of these spots, but I just don't know what they are. Yeah, I mean, I think there could be something to say about Moon Knight and Werewolf by Night and Blade and Doctor Strange. Some sort of Dark Avengers type of thing. I don't remember what they're called in the comics, but they're all connected in that way. So you could see something like that maybe. But I think we know what our big team up movies are going to be at this point for the next 2 phases. We're getting Thunderbolts, we're getting Fantastic Four, we're getting 2 Avengers movies, and I assume we're going to get X-Men. So I think those are your big team up events. I could see obviously there's going to be some overlap with characters showing up in other shows and movies and stuff. I could see Doctor Strange showing up, but I don't think Doctor Strange is going to be the second build character in a movie coming up like he was Spider-Man. I don't see it happening. I could see him showing up to play a role, whether that's building an Illuminati or something else. I don't know, but I think that's the most you're going to see of Doctor Strange. I could be wrong. We will find out September 10th, I think. They'll probably at that point, I assume they'll give us a lot more in terms of casting for some of these things, but I assume we'll also probably see what the properties are in Phase 6 would be my guess. I don't think they would just give us part of it. I think they'll give us the whole thing, but I don't know. But yeah,
they asked him, we'll get X-Men by Phase 10, and he laughed and he goes, hopefully sooner than that. And that's all he said.
We'll get them before Phase 10. That's a long ways down the road. How'd we do? Did we cover everything?
I think we did for what they gave us. They gave us, like I said, it wasn't a lot, but it was at the same time. And what's crazy is half of them, we have no idea what's going on. Like we have an idea in Ant-Man. We have an idea in Guardians, but when you get to Loki and all them, we have no idea what they're doing.
You don't need to know.
Which is fun.
You still got,
Which is fun.
you still got months before any of that stuff. The next thing is, I mean, we get She-Hulk here next month, but after that, it's not till November even that we get.
And She-Hulk will be interesting. It'll be interesting because of the Daredevil, and we'll really know what kind of character. Is he the one from the Netflix type, or is it actually?
I don't think it'll be the same exact character. I think it'll be a different variant, essentially. I think that's what they're going to do here. I think they're going to say that the Netflix people were a different variant, and the Sonyverse are different variants, and that's the word we're going to use to describe all these different universes that we've seen. So, and
hopefully we get a Spider-Man update, because you can't have Marvel and MCU without Spider-Man at some point.
Yeah, I would think we'll get a Spider-Man movie. I don't know when they'll release it. Sony will do their own thing in conjunction with Marvel. But yeah, I think we'll probably get a Spider-Man movie in Phase 5 or Phase 6. Yeah.
Because you can't have that end credit scene in Spider-Man No Way Home and then not follow up.
How did it end?
Who's the Carnage? Like, let there be carnage. What's his name?
Venom?
Remember when Venom was left, that piece was left back in the MCU because he was at the bar and the multiverse sent him back?
Yeah, I don't know what they'll do with that. Don't
even get me started on Morbius. We don't need to go down that road.
Go down that road. No. Sony's more or less dead to me.
Feige warned him. He said, don't try to make your own universe and do this. He tried to tell him.
Yeah, they're not very good at it. All right, man.
I think that was it.
Good stuff. We had a lot to talk about. I think we covered it all. So this has been fun.
And we'll have more coming up. They'll release more and more.
Yeah, we'll have more in September. So
the more we get back to normal from the COVID stuff that sent them back, now we're going to start getting more and more.
Probably jump on here again in September after D23 and talk about that and talk about She-Hulk. And then preview Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Oh, I'm going to have to see if I have basketball. I might just get basketball to go see that. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it.
Good work, Steve.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Go check out Logan's podcast, which will start up when sports start back up.
Soon.
Soon.
No one asked us. We'll return very soon. I don't have a date for you yet,
but check it out when it comes back. Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace. Love.